Once upon a time, there was a man and his wife who had no child. They lived in a cottage. They were peasants. And beside the cottage and behind it was a tall stone wall, which separated a sorceress's garden abundant with healing plants. Stories said that she was dangerous and the plants were forbidden. The woman longed for a child. And one day, she was so compelled with desire that she looked out the back window of the cottage that looked over the stone wall into the sorceress's garden. When she saw the thick, plush, round, rampion lettuce leaves, she had the greatest desire to eat them. And that desire built up in her almost like an obsession until finally she said to her husband, "If I don't eat the rampant lettuce, I will die." He was afraid of the sorceress, but he was more afraid of his wife's death. One night, he climbed over the stone wall and stole some leaves. His wife devoured them, but she only wanted more and more and more until finally her husband went back over the stone wall at night. But standing in the bed of lettuce was the sorceress herself. I ask myself why he didn't realize she was a sorceress. She would know. But nonetheless, she demanded to know why he was in the garden. And he explained about his wife, their longing for a child, her longing for the lettuce. The sorceress said he could have as much as he wants on one condition. I will take the child when it's born as my own, and I will be a great and loving mother. Quickly he went back, he gave his wife the lettuce, she ate it, and she was pregnant. When she gave birth to a baby girl, the sorceress appeared. She claimed the infant as her own, and she went to her garden. And the man and his wife left the story. When I was a little girl, I lived on fairy tales. I couldn't go to sleep at night unless I replaced the images in my mind from those of the confusing things on our post-Holocaust Jewish street and the mini civil war that took place in the kitchen between my parents. I crossed a threshold from that discomfort to a world of imagination and dreams, where I could turn anything into something else. I had a repeated nightmare. I was in a forest. In the middle of the forest, there was a hill. On the top of the hill, there was a stone tower. It would burst into flame, and out of the tower would run a witch, her hair wild, holding a broom on fire, and I would run down the hill. And just as she got close and I could feel her heat, I woke up. The pillow was hot, so I turned it over, and the cool cotton pillow was a relief. I put my head down and I incanted trees and flowers, trees and flowers, trees and flowers, trees and flowers, until I saw a garden and knew I was safe. The sorceress named the baby Rapunzel after the leaves that the mother had eaten. And my friends, that's no surprise. My name, Laura, is after the plant laurel that makes you just mad with inspiration for poetry. Heather's name is for the midsummer plant that grows in the north, that is the doorway to the other world, and without which you cannot summon the fairies back to our earth. And birch, why, she is Our Lady of Winter, the great mother tree, sacred and honored because she is the tree that protects regeneration and new life. Rapunzel grew up for 12 years. Nothing about her 12 years is explained. Why should it be? She was taken out of our world. But her hair grew so long and thick, it went down to her feet. And she became the most beautiful girl in the world. But she was fertile and alive inside. So the sorceress, to protect her, took her to a remote old forest, in the middle of which she had an ancient stone tower. There was no door in, no door out, a small window on the top, an enigma for sure. How she and Rapunzel entered and went up to the tower window is not told, but she was a sorceress. And Rapunzel's hair had grown so long that she could braid it with the help of the sorceress. And it hung down outside the window like a ladder all the way to the earth. In the evenings, the sorceress would climb down her hair. And in the mornings, the sorceress would return, and she would call up to Rapunzel, who had gathered back the braids. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. And Rapunzel's hair would cascade down the stones, and up would go the sorceress and spend the day with her daughter. Rapunzel was alone from sunset to sunrise. And like a plant whose roots reach down into the earth and draw water, on her own, alone in the tower at night, she drew up a song. It was so beautiful. Well, the thorn thickets that surrounded the tower listened, the trees listened, the plants listened, the birds listened, the sky listened, the earth listened, and a prince. A prince was riding by on his way to hunt when he heard the song, and he left his hunting and pursued the sound. He rode into the forest. There was a tower, no door in, no door out. But the song was so beautiful. He waited, and just as the sun went down, he saw a woman who called up, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And he saw her climb into a tower. Actually, I got it mixed up. It was morning that she came and evening that she went down. So just adjust your mind. He was so astonished, just as I was. That's why I said that, confused. He waited until she had left. And then he mimed the sound of the woman and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And she let her braids down, and he climbed up into the tower window. My friends, Rapunzel had never seen a man before. And inside of that fertile, living young body, there stirred feelings she had never felt. And he, who had given up hunting and given up everything and climbed through the window, was so open-hearted that, of course, they made love, and they knew unconditional passion. They knew bliss. So night after night, unseen by the sorceress, he spent those dark hours with Rapunzel. Now, Rapunzel was surprised because her belly, after a while, was growing round. And one day she said to the sorceress, "Have you noticed that my dress is growing tight? And there's one other thing that really is mysterious. The young man who climbs up my braid in the evenings after you left is much heavier than you." Enraged, the sorceress cut off her braids, and she banished the pregnant girl to a desolate place. This is the part of the story as a child that I did not like, and why I was so uncertain about whether I wanted to work on this story until I read that desolate places were so-called hells or barren or wastelands by church and other religions that covered up these secluded sanctuaries of the ancient goddess, where priestesses were sent to dream or to give birth. Then a story inside this story of Rapunzel began to enter me. But Rapunzel was there by herself, pregnant. That evening, happily, the prince went to the foot of the tower. He called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And up he climbed through the window. But there was the sorceress, just as she had stood before the man who stole lettuce from the garden. Whether he leapt out the window or she pushed him out the window doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that he fell like a hanging man from the flaming tower of the tarot deck into the thorn thicket and was blinded. And he wandered blind, living on berries or whatever he could eat in the natural world, wandering, longing, and searching for Rapunzel. How it was, how long it was, I have no idea. Whether she summoned him or whether he found her, they found one another after a long time. And then Rapunzel, the girl who grew up in the sorcerer's garden, reached beneath the earth through her body, her tender heart open, and cried, and her tears fell on the eyes of the prince, and he could see again. They went to his kingdom. They ruled equally on two thrones with their children. For while she was alone in that desolate place of solitude, she had given birth to twins. So they ruled with great kindness. He who had given up everything was blind and saw again. She, who was nurtured by the sorceress herself, ruled for the benefit of everyone. And they ruled together, the king, the queen, the two children. And in that place, my friends, there was no wall.